Hello, boys, girls, and those who sexually identify as assless chaps. I'm Mr. Dapperton. Today we're going to separate free market capitalism from government, and then we're going to determine which one is better. But first, let's show my biases. I'm going to debunk socialism right now. The whole point of socialism is to create equality, but it does so by handing out power to those in government. That doesn't achieve equality. It achieves the opposite. The only equality that they worry about is not power for some reason, but how much money somebody makes. Who cares if somebody has a lot of money and they can make a lot of voluntary transactions? Nobody could rule you with voluntary transactions. But let me debunk socialism with one quote. Human beings are born with different capacities. If they are free, they are not equal. And if they are equal, they are not free. Now, re-listen to that a bunch of times and let it sink in. The answers to all of your questions lie within that quote. Let's talk about something else. Crony capitalism. Whose fault is it? Everybody says it's capitalism's fault. Why? Because capitalism is in the name, so it must be capitalism's fault. For those who don't know, crony capitalism is when the government takes your rights and sells them away to the corporations. Basically saying, hey corporations, do you want to control these people? If you do, just give me money and I'll use our police officers who have guns and force people to obey you, either through extortion, imprisonment, or even sometimes the death penalty. And everybody looks at the corporations and goes, it's the corporation's fault. How dare they buy government? But it's the government that's committing the crime here. They're the ones enforcing the fucking rules. They're the ones who are selling your rights away. They're the ones fucking profiting. The power literally stems from them. But it's not their fault? Bullshit! Why are they able to do this? Because you gave them power they should have never been able to have in the first place. But let's begin and talk about what we're going to talk about. Let's do this shit. Society can only function in two ways, either through free markets or through government. Look at the picture that's in front of you now. On the dial, you'll notice a little green mark. Where that green mark is represents where society is as far as what system it's using. Either the dial could be turned all the way to government, or it could be dialed to the free markets. And it could also fall anywhere in between and be a mixture of the two. And that's precisely what most societies have, is a mixture of the two. Which is basically crony capitalism, the thing that we were just talking about before. It's awful. Basically, it's the free market infested with the aids of government. I know some commies and left-wingers are looking at this graph and going, you can't throw government in a box. You just don't understand why government can be put in a box. Government, all governments, share something in common. They all have power. They're all involuntary. So it's basically free market capitalism, aka voluntary transactions, versus government, aka non-voluntary transactions. Can businesses take away your children? Can businesses give you the death penalty? No, because if they tried that, you could kill them. It's a little something called self-defense. Whereas government, you can't defend yourself against it because it has power over you. It's involuntary. So because all governments yield this power, yes, they can all be put in a box together. So what does this graph show? Basically, it shows whether or not society goes towards government, aka a select few having power over the many, or if everybody's equal in the fact that nobody has power over them. Everybody is an equal free man, and nobody has power over anybody else. Basically, the way things should be, aka the free market. What history has shown us is that having government, having power, having a few with power over other people, that just gets abused. So basically, the more towards the government the dial goes, the more corruption you have. You'll also find even in the middle of the dial, there's quite a bit of corruption because government's around and people have power, so they sell that power for money to the corporations, giving power to people that normally would never be able to achieve power because they're in the private sector or part of the free market, which by itself is a free and fair system that doesn't allow for such power to exist. The power of government can only be abused. There is literally nothing good that can come from it. Letting people rule over each other and letting people sell that rulership to other people that have money, how does that create equality? What you're literally doing is creating classes of people, what you're fucking against, which is classes of rulers. I mean, that's shitty. At least with the free market, there are no rulers. Yeah, somebody could have a lot of money, but they can't do anything other than voluntary transactions with it, so they don't really rule over you. They can't go, oh, I'm going to kill somebody with my money and hire an assassin. Why? Because that's against the non-aggression principle, which is part of the free markets. You'll be able to defend against the person that's trying to kill you, and then you'd be able to take this person to court. Whether that court being private or the state, it doesn't matter. You'll be able to take that person to court. They will be held accountable for their actions. Basically, the person that hires the assassin won't get away with it. Whereas with government, they can give anybody they want the death penalty, and they will get away with it. Why? Because people feel that power should exist, when it clearly should not. I'm tired of people calling the rich the ruling class. All they can do is voluntary transactions. That's not ruling you. But being able to make laws through government, actually being in government, now that's a ruling class. You could take people's children away, make anything you want illegal, imprison anybody, put anybody in a concentration camp, choose who dies by the death penalty, make any law that you want and make anything you want happen. Now that's power. Now that's a ruling class. To call the rich the ruling class is fucking stupid. Well, back in the 50s, the United States was the most successful society that was ever built. And the reason why is because it relied on the free markets and not the government. That means the dial was turned all the way to the free markets. And when it was, again, we saw success. Since then, we moved the dial to government. Now the jobs have disappeared. We're $20 trillion in debt, and everything went to shit. Now you may be asking yourself, why is this, Mr. Dapperton? Why is the free market so much better than the government? Well, that's simple, my friend. Free market, aka capitalism, rewards success, while government rewards failure. Let's say you're poor. You have the option to work full-time, but the government rewards you if you work less and you work part-time. How do they reward you? Well, they'll pay for your food, so now you can work part-time. Now you can spend more time with your buddies. See, that type of society rewards people to produce half as much. See? How does that better society? He's not trying his best, so society's not working at its full potential. Okay, here's another example of government rewarding slackers. If you have a government job, you are literally rewarded to slack off. Why? Because it's almost impossible to get fired from a government job. Therefore, you and everybody under government is producing a lower quality product. Therefore, your society produces a lower quality product. You're not keeping prices low, you're putting your economy into shambles. You just made your society less efficient. Whereas with capitalism, if you're not doing your goddamn best to make everybody as happy as possible, you're likely going to lose your job. So what does this do? This makes sure you get your ass in gear and then you serve as many people as possible, the best service you possibly can. Because you and everybody in capitalism make better products, you just made your society better. You made your society more efficient. You made your society richer by stimulating the economy. People say competition's bad. No, competition is good. Hear me out. Capitalism rewards people for making people as happy as possible while taking as little amount of resources from them as possible. You just gave them the best product possible at the cheapest price. Basically, you enrich others by enriching yourself. What I'm saying is, with competition and capitalism, there are no losers. In fact, everybody is a winner. Whereas with government, everybody's a loser. So what does this mean? This means that there's two systems, and one of the systems is not as good as the other. Free markets are way better than the government ever has been. So why do we have so much damn government and so little capitalism and free markets? That's a question you need to ask yourself. Should we privatize courts? Should we privatize roads? Should we privatize fire stations, the police, the military? These are the questions that society needs to start asking itself. What history has shown us again and again is that capitalism and the free markets does everything better than the government ever will. So what about your society? Should you move the dial to the free markets and enjoy the success that the early United States had? Or do you want to turn the dial all the way to government and enjoy all the poverty and death that Venezuela offers? I don't know about you, but I say we turn the dial back to the free markets in every country. But what do I know? I'm just a silly cartoon. Remember to smash the like and subscribe button. Thank you for watching.